What's up, guys? I'm Jack, and this is Daisy. Daisy, say hi. And welcome to another Elden Ring video. And in this video, I actually managed to beat Radahn without the Mimic tier carrying me. So I'm sure you guys saw the title and you might be a little bit interested, so what are we doing here? Well, in the DLC they added a brand new sunflower boss and of course a brand new giant sunflower weapon. So I wanted to see just how good this new weapon was. They also added a new incantation from that same sunflower boss, so we're going to be using that as well. But until we can get access to those, I need to get an outfit, and I also need to get the weapon. So the rules for this part of the run are use any means necessary in order to get the sunflower weapon / incantation, as well as a good outfit for this run. Now, in order to get the weapon in the first place, we need to get access to the DLC, so we're gonna need to take out Radahn and Mohg, and we got a long way to go. I took out Margit, Godric, and Rennala fairly easily with the club, and with that it was time to head to Leyndell. So, funny enough, both parts of my outfit that I want reside in Leyndell. Now, first we need to start the Gold Mask quest. So we go ahead and talk to this guy, and he doesn't say anything. We tell Brother Corrin where he is. Corrin is very fanatical about his master. He ends up finding Gold Mask here on the bridge. So we go back to talk to them, and then they move again, so we have to go find them again. We talk to them again. Turns out that Gold Mask is trying to solve a problem, and he just can't find the answer, so it's our job to find the answer to this problem. But before I do, I want my outfit. Now, as you can imagine, a sunflower-only run would involve a plant-based outfit, and these guys are the best ones around for that. So we go ahead and farm these guys for a little bit, hoping to get their chest plate, and I actually managed to get really lucky because I get it on my second try. And this outfit is exactly what I was looking for. I think it looks pretty good. We destroy Golden Godfrey, and we grab the Erdtree book, so why not? And then we have to grab this prayer book up here. This is important. This helps us complete the Golden Order quest line with Brother Corrin. Give him the book, and then we learn the spell that's in it, which is called Law of Regression. Unfortunately, in order to use Law of Regression, we need 37 intellect, and we don't quite have that. So I head to Agheel Lake South in order to get a larval tier so we can respec our points. And if you didn't know, if you go up this little hill right here, this zombie looking dude that's just hanging out here, take him out, and then that spawns a rune bear, and if you take out the rune bear, then you get a larval tier. So I usually go for this one if I need a quick larval tier. And I'll mention here that I created a brand new character for this, so that I would have to go out of my way to collect any extra items or gear that I needed, just to make this a bit more interesting. Also, why are we doing the Gold Mask questline? Good question. And, don't worry about it. Now, in order to get Gold Mask's armor set, you need to complete his quest. So I decided to do that in order to get his armor, because I really wanted his mask. Don't say anything if you know. But so we go down here, right outside of the site of grace, where we take out Golden Godfrey, down the elevator, and that's where we have to use the Law of Regression, right in front of this big statue next to the message that says regression. So go ahead and pop that, and oh my god, Radahn is actually America. Wow. So that was the puzzle that Gold Mask was pondering. We talked to them, tell him, and then they move to the mountaintops of the giants. We talk to them again, take out the fire giant, burn the Erdtree, and then we go to the crumbling farm Azula. I always have trouble with Malekith, so it took a couple tries to take him down, but it actually wasn't too difficult. The Great Stars, the weapon that I'm using, has really good poise damage, and just really good damage in general, plus it does bleed build up, so very good for a quick run through. And of course, yeah, I did die to Malekith a bunch, but that's fine. So we see Corrin over here, and we find Gold Mask, grab his mending rune of perfect order, and then go back over to him. And then once we go back over to him, he should have the Gold Mask set, which we can then equip to us. so I could have his mask. And I want his mask because it kind of looks like a sunflower, if you squint hard enough, you know? Yeah, so, I just assumed that the mask would drop with the rest of Gold Mask's set, but it doesn't, and it's actually just laying on a broken bridge that I could have grabbed the entire time instead of wasting like 3 hours going through the mountaintops of the giants and crumbling Farum Azula and doing the whole freaking quest line. So that's fun. But we got the Radiant Gold Mask, and now we're looking pretty nice. We're looking like a sunflower, right? And I'll be damned if I'm not going to be wearing any of Gold Mask's things, so I put on his bracelets and his leggings, but I take those off because they don't look good. We come over to this church to fight Eleonora because she gives us the crystal tear that negates the bleed phase transition that Moog uses. It does a heck of a lot of damage, so having this tear would be incredible for that fight. And then we go straight to Moog. And no joke, this is actually one of the easiest Moog fights that I've ever done in my entire life. Now I also grabbed Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength during my adventures, so we have those to give us some extra buffs, and I have Determination on my Great Stars, which gives our next attack a massive damage increase. So I use charge attacks, and wow, yeah, that's good damage. And this isn't even optimal either. It could be a lot better. And as far as talismans go, I grabbed the Warrior Jar Shard, I grabbed the Claw Talisman and the Axe Talisman, which increases your jump damage and then your charge attack damage, and I believe I have the Fire Negation Talisman on right now as well. With each swing from our mighty Great Stars, we're able to take out a massive chunk of Moog's health until he does the phase shift. This is when he gets a bit of his health back, but since we can attack him during it, we take out most of it again. And we also get a really nice poise break, which will allow us to riposte right here. And I believe we actually got a bleed right there too. And before long, Moog, the Lord of Blood, has been taken care of. And we can move on to the DLC and get the actual weapon that we're supposed to be using for this run. Now, again, this is a new character, so I don't have any Scadutree fragments, so I'm going to need to go out of my way to collect those. I also only upgraded my flasks like twice, and I don't have too many of them, but we'll be fine. So on my way to the Scadutree Avatars, I of course go out of my way to pick up any Scadutree fragments on the way. That last sentence was a bit of a fallacy. It said I'd go out of my way to pick up things on my way. Regardless, I get my Scadutree blessing up 2 times before we continue on and try to fight the bosses. So we gotta make our way through the Morth Ruins to get underneath it, and then up to that little hermit village. I forgot what it's called actually. But I also grabbed the Oh Mother... What's that called? What is that? Emo? Yeah, we'll say emote. Yeah, I grabbed the Oh Mother emote, and then we continue on through the church district in order to get to the Scadutree Avatars. Now, these Scadutree Avatars are incredibly weak to fire damage, but I don't have anything that deals fire damage, and I don't feel like upgrading a new weapon, so we're just going to use what we have. Now, thankfully, the Great Stars does do a hefty amount of poise damage, and each attack also just deals a good amount of regular damage, so I'm not too worried about it, but we'll see how it goes. We are very much under-leveled in terms of Scadutree blessing, so yeah, we'll see. But finally, once we finish this, we can actually begin the run, which is pretty exciting, honestly. Whoops. I guess I forgot to take off Moog's crystal tier, but that's okay. We got this. First try. Yeah, so I didn't get it first try, or the second, or the third. I actually did like 40 minutes of attempts before I got a decent one. Now, thankfully, our attacks deal a significant amount of damage per hit, so I think we can finish this up as long as we don't get unlucky. Now, after we defeat each Scadutree Avatar, we're allowed to riposte their little sunflower head, and that deals a significant portion of damage to the next one that spawns in. So I also activated Determination for that because it does buff our riposte damage, and I reactivate Flame Grant Me Strength and refill on my FP. Now this second one is the tankiest Scadutree Avatar of the three, but as long as we hit his head, we still deal a really good amount of damage. So with only a few hits, we can get him down to one shot and finish off the second one. Now the third one isn't quite as tanky, and while it does have some interesting attacks, it doesn't take too many hits before it goes down too.
Does she hit my girl? She's talking about how she does home. It'll and how this is literally this is like the girl.
Great. Now we just need to turn in that remembrance and we'll get our sunflower weapon and we can finally actually start this run.
My dick has made me money before.
No, I'm not going to acknowledge what was just said. But regardless, we upgrade our sunflower to plus 10 because I had hoarded a bunch of somber smithing stones. And I go ahead and duplicate the remembrance over at a walking mausoleum so that we can get the incantation as well. Now I grabbed the incantation just for a little bit of variety. I don't use it too much in the run, but it's still fun to have. Now at first, I was just going to use this sunflower as both a regular weapon and of course use its Ash of War. But about midway through the DLC, I decided that it was a bit too easy and a little bit too boring. So you'll see when it comes up, but after Gaius, I decided to just use the Ash of War on the rest of the bosses throughout the DLC. As well as the incantation if I can find a use for it, but to be honest, it wasn't super useful. Now, I guess that was a bit of foreshadowing, but the new rules are sunflower and incantation only, no summons except for Igon of course, and no glitches. And then again, after Gaius, we won't be using it as a regular weapon and we'll just be using the Ash of War, just because I kind of got bored. Now, as a weapon, it's really good, honestly. I had a lot of fun with it. A lot of people in my last Frenzy Flame video said that Midra's Flame of Frenzy was actually bad. I believe you. I believe you. If it's bad, it's bad, but I had fun with it. So, you know, if I'm wrong about the sunflower being good too, let me know. Comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. But I personally had a lot of fun with it, and I think it's a good weapon. But, you know, I could be wrong. Let me know. Of course, we go ahead and buff up Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, whatever I had in my physic at the time, and we go ahead and face the Divine Beast Dancing Lion. Now, you need the least amount of Scadutree fragments to fight this boss than any other, or, well, not to fight it, but to be on par with it. So that's why this is the first boss in the run for us. Now, at first, I was a bit worried about the Ash of War. I didn't think it was going to be very good, so I opted to just use jump attacks and, well, whatever I could get off in time because it is a slower weapon, but thankfully it does do a lot of poise damage since it's a colossal weapon. And the Ash of War actually has some really good hyper armor. For the most part, as long as we can tank and attack health-wise, we should be able to get the Ash of War off on most bosses. I also learned that it's really not that slow to use, and it's quite effective throughout the DLC. Now, I did feel like this was a really fair boss fight. We both did a lot of damage to each other, and our attacks were meaningful on both sides, so I've had a lot of fun with this one. As long as I could dodge and get healed up, that was close. I love the weather moves from the Divine Beast Dancing Lion. I think those are so cool, how it changes each element and weather type. That's really fun. I tried out the Land of Shadow incantation on it. That's the one that we got from the sunflower, and it did okay. It takes a little while to cast, but it does have incredible range, and it hits quite a few times, so not a bad incantation, but definitely not the best that I've ever used. Now, what's really helpful in this DLC in general is that holy damage is actually quite nice. A lot of the bosses and enemies are either weak to holy damage or just don't resist it, so it's a really good damage type to use throughout the DLC. The Divine Beast dancing line switches over to ice, and I find this one to be pretty difficult to dodge with the whole Hoarfrost stomps animations. But we do manage to survive a little bit, and one more hit should be enough to take it out. And we're done. That wasn't bad. First try victory. I will certainly take that, especially on a new character with very few Scadutree fragments. Now, what's next? Oh yeah, Rolana. So we go to Castle Ensis, and I just try to run through everything. I did die a few times trying to run through, and I got trapped at a gate, and it was a mess. But about 10 minutes after we beat the Divine Beast dancing line, I made it to Rolana's front door, buffed up, and got ready for a fight. It's gonna be another first try. No. Okay. So I might be slightly underleveled for this, but it's fine. Right? Again, the Ash of War has really good hyper armor, so I thought that might work pretty well against her, so we could just poise through her attacks, and I guess it did. As long as we can survive her wickedly long combos, it's not bad. Plus, if we can bait her to get a little bit close to us, the Ash of War actually has a decent reach. I was starting to really like this weapon and this challenge. Now, I'll let you guys in. Oh, let's take a poise break. I'll tell you guys a little bit about me. So I love plants very much. I have a lot of plants in my apartment. And that's kind of where I got this idea from, to use a plant-based build. And of course, since they added the new sunflower, that was the perfect weapon to use. I also remember first playing through the DLC and coming across these sunflower bosses randomly. I was like, holy crap, those are the coolest looking bosses I've ever seen. And then I learned that the Remembrance drops a sunflower weapon, and I fell in love. Now, I didn't actually use it because I don't like big weapons, but I thought it was a really cool concept nonetheless. I also thought that it was going to be more of a meme weapon than an actual useful weapon, but I was pleasantly surprised to find out that it's quite good. And with that, Rolana was taken out. And only after a few minutes of attempts, which is not that bad. The Cerulean Coast is next, and God, this place is so beautiful. I'll say it in every single one of my videos for this, it's gorgeous. And on my way through the Deep Stone Coffin, I make a little pit stop to grab a weapon for a potential future run. And I have a couple ideas, let me know what you guys think. So Saint Trina's swords only run using both of the swords, the one that I grabbed here and also the one from the base game. I was thinking that maybe. I know people have already done Sekiro runs with the new Wondrous Physic tier, but I thought that might be fun just because I had never really tried that yet. And I was thinking of one more. Oh yeah, like a Necromancer run where we just use all of the spirit summoning spells and items to beat the game. So, let me know what you guys think. I personally think the Necromancer one would probably be the most interesting for you guys to watch, though I think the Sekiro one would be the most fun for me. Again, let me know. Back to the run at hand though, we came across the Putrescent Knight, and we do okay damage to him. Though I just wasn't doing too well during this fight, to be completely honest. Good God, I couldn't dodge anything. Wow. You know, I'm not great at the game, but this makes me look actively bad at it. But since we have decent damage and a good amount of health for this point in the run and enough Scadutree fragments, we can tank through all of the mistakes that I made and continue to stay alive and fight the Putrescent Knight. Now, he's a cool boss. I don't know, he doesn't strike me as a remembrance boss. I don't know why. Same with the sunflowers, to be honest. Even though I love the sunflowers, they're probably my favorite bosses in the game. And the Putrescent Knight, which is also my favorite boss in the game. Yeah, I don't know, they just don't strike me as remembrance bosses. I don't know why. That's just me, probably. I think this should have been like a gatekeeper boss, and then we fight Saint Trina or something, I don't know. Regardless. We keep taking him down, chipping him down his health, and he keeps chipping down ours, but we still have some healing left, so we should be okay. Hopefully. Oh God. I'm down to my last flask of Crimson Tears. That's not looking good. He's pretty low too, but we're quite literally one shot right now. So if we make a single mistake, we're done for. Now, this was my first try at the fight so far, so I was a bit rusty. We did get off Land of Shadow with the last of our FP, really. And thankfully, I managed to dodge this blue fire attack, and Land of Shadow actually managed to take out the Putrescent Knight, saving us from having to go through that again. Now, on my way to Commander Gaius, I did die my fair share of times, but I really just wanted to get the Gaius fight out of the way because I hate him so much. So much. Plus, he guards about 5 different Scadutree fragments that would help us level up for Mesmer, so I thought it best to take him out now. And if you didn't know, this is what we grabbed the Oh Mother emote for, so that we could come over here to the right of Commander Gaius and use it at this statue. I'm sure 99.9% of you knew, if not 100%, but just in case somebody didn't know, this is how you access part of the DLC. And I know I put a lot of little tutorials on how to find stuff in this video so far, and I'm sure 100% of you, or 99.9% of you, know where to find this stuff already, but just in case somebody doesn't, I hope I can help them out a little bit, you know? Of course, my first try with Commander Gaius does not go well. I just suck at this boss fight very much. I'm not good at it. I always lose. And this run was no different, even with a really solid weapon. So even though we got good damage off and good poise damage and we had a long range spell, it still took me a very, very long time in order to beat him. Though not as long as the last run. No, this one was roughly an hour, a little bit less, before we got a good run that was actually usable, and I think we got a little bit lucky with the attacks that he used and the amount of jump attacks that we were able to get off in quick succession, because if we get 4 of them off, like we do right here, we can poise break him, which will allow us to use our Ash of War and get some pretty sick damage off. Now, I've tried the Ash of War in previous attempts at this fight, and it's just too inconsistent because of how slow it is to charge it up, and that's unfortunate because it does a significant amount of damage, significantly more than our jump attack, but it's fine. Now, we're off to a really good start, barely 30 seconds into the fight, and he's already down to a 1/3 health. I still have most of my healing, half of my healing, and as long as I can continue to dodge a little bit, I should be okay. That being said, I suck at dodging his attacks, so I don't know if I'll be okay. Yeah, it's fine. We can continue the fight. We have a little bit more healing left, only 2 flasks, but that should be enough. And thank God I dodged that charge attack. It probably would have been over if I didn't, because I suck at dodging that thing. But we keep going, and a few more jump attacks. He should be poise breaked here soon if we can get one more hit off. Yep. Finish him off with the Ash of War, and that's Commander Gaius down, surprisingly without too much pain this time. I guess that's a testament to how good the Sunflower weapon is. So I go ahead and go past Gaius and grab the 5 Scadutree fragments that are laying in front of this giant cauldron. I still wonder if there was supposed to be any use for the cauldron, and they just didn't have the time or didn't want to finish making a quest for it. I don't know. I would like to know why it's here. Regardless, we're gonna go to the Ancient Ruins of Ra next, and I end up grabbing the Great Rune of Radahn on my way, as well as stopping by one of the minor Erdtrees in Caelid to get some better tears from my Wondrous Physic. Now, this Erdtree Avatar, not Scadutree, Erdtree Avatar drops my 2 favorite Wondrous Physic tears in the game. There's one that gives you some damage resistance for a while, and then there's also one that increases the poise damage that you deal. And they both drop from this guy right here, so I usually take him out. I just forgot to. I guess I was lazy, but the Opaline and the Stone Barb cracked here are good. And yeah, this is where the rule comes into effect. With the rest of the bosses, we're only using the Ash of War from the Sunflower or the Incantation to win. No more using the Sunflower as a weapon, we're just using it for the Ash of War. And this was because my challenge run itch wasn't really being scratched. This felt more like a themed run rather than a challenge run, and it wasn't very satisfying to win. So I hope that by adding this as a new rule that it would help to make this more satisfying for me. And it absolutely did. Now, Ramana is a really cool boss. She's easily my favorite in the game, and her moveset is pretty neat. It heavily punishes you for being mid to long range because she can close the gap very easily, and if you're mid range, all of her attacks will basically hit you, so you're meant to fight her really, really close, and that's perfect for our weapon. So we're actually able to get the Ash of War off pretty easily in between all of her combos, and since we're so close, we actually managed to dodge a bunch of her attacks that would otherwise hit us if we were mid-range. I found that the Ash of War, again, even though it takes some time to charge up, doesn't take too long. I still had enough time to get it off in between her combos and her attacks without getting hit. So it was actually not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. That on top of the actual good damage that it does, I was pretty impressed. Of course, I still died on my first attempt, and my second, and my third. But eventually, I did get a good run in where I was able to take her down below half again and keep hitting her without dying. I did get one attempt where I got hit by her grab attack, where she basically puts her stinger inside of you, freezing, and poisons you, or gives you scarlet rot, sorry, but yeah, it ended up just leaving the game. I didn't feel like continuing after that, so I just quit and reset. But that wasn't this attempt, and we actually managed to dodge her grab attacks and not get scarlet rotted, so I think we should be okay. I ended up using a Blessing of America because I ran out of healing, and it healed us up to full and gave us just enough health to get off a couple more Ashes of War. And that's all we really needed to finish off this boss. One more hit. As long as we can survive. Just dodge. Just dodge. Come on. Come on. Okay. There we go. With that, I think it's time for a break. Now, if you haven't heard, there's a hurricane on the East Coast right now that is right above Charleston, South Carolina, where I live. So I wanted to go surfing. Now, if you've never been hurricane surfing before, it's a bit of a trip. I gathered the boys in my GoPro, which doesn't have auto stabilization, and we grabbed our boards and tried to get in the water. Now, the waves don't look too big from the GoPro's point of view, but they were about 5 to 6 feet that day. Now, 5 to 6 feet doesn't sound too big, but picture this. You're a cat, you're about a foot tall, and you're looking up at a 5 to 6 foot human. They're going to look like a giant to you. Now, that's exactly what happens with surfing, because your head is about a foot out of the water, and you're looking up at a 6 foot mountain coming down on top of you. Now, thankfully, after about 30 to 45 minutes of getting pushed and shoved and thrown back to shore by the big waves, I had finally made it past the break. The boys were nowhere to be found, likely swept off to sea or drowned, but I finally saw a wave that I wanted to take. Now, I didn't have much of a choice, because if I didn't take this wave, it was going to crash right on top of me and send me back to shore regardless. So I hopped on, and it was more of an avalanche than a wave. It broke everywhere all at once. That's what we call closeout, and it just wasn't a good time. Now, it was pretty big, so that was nice, and I got a good little drop in. That's where you go down a little surfing ramp, I guess, or a wave ramp, and I made it all the way back to shore, and with that, I was done. Turns out getting past the break during a hurricane is rough. Let's get back to Elden Ring. So next up is Mesmer, and honestly, I was pretty confident about this. I thought that I could get it first try, just because I assumed holy damage would be good against him for some reason. I didn't look up his resistances or anything, I just assumed that it would do well. Yeah. And while it certainly didn't do poorly, it also did not do nearly as well as I thought it would. Now, I was still also learning the timings with the Ash of War, so needless to say, even though I was pretty confident, this likely wasn't going to go my way. And it most certainly didn't. While I did manage to get a few hits off, I died pretty quickly. I also failed to dodge the first opening attack, which is kind of embarrassing because that one is pretty easy to dodge. Now again, the Ash of War does do pretty solid damage, but not nearly as much as I thought it was going to do. So I was actually a bit let down. But Mesmer has some pretty decent sized openings, especially in his second phase when he turns into a big snake. So I figured as long as I could get to the second phase, I should be okay. Now, I love Mesmer. I love his moveset, I love his design. The black and red fire is so cool. He's probably my favorite boss in the DLC. Though it is pretty annoying how he taunts you every single time you die, and hearing him say that over and over again can get quite annoying. Now, of course, I did get my opening attack dodging skills back, and managed to get a couple of hits off on him early on. Yeah, after taking a few hits, I needed to heal up, so I did that, thankfully got an opening, hit him again, and managed to dodge his next couple of attacks. Now, again, we don't do a crazy amount of damage, but we do enough so that it doesn't take too long to get into Phase 2. And once we get into Phase 2, again, we should be mostly okay because he has some good openings there as well. He's really not too difficult of a boss. I think he's very well balanced. I have fun with him. Though, of course, I do remember during my first playthrough, I had a lot of trouble with him and basically just ended up cheesing him. And for that, I just spammed the Death Ritual Spear. Great weapon. But here, well, I can't spam the Death Ritual Spear, so I'm gonna have to actually time my dodges and attacks well, which I can't always do, especially during that big snake attack, which I just suck at dodging. Now, thankfully, I do manage to survive on a sliver of health right there, which is great, because if not, it probably would have been another hour of attempts. And we've got him pretty low so far, and he's left a couple openings for us. So I think we can finish this off, especially since we still have... Oh, never mind, we're out of healing. You know, I really need to do better. You know? I shouldn't be taking this many hits. Like, I feel pretty decent in the moment, but then watching all of this footage back and seeing all of my failed attempts, I don't know. I don't think I'm actually that good at this game. That's probably why I needed to use a Mimic tier in my last run, just because it was a skill issue, rather than a build issue. Can confirm Frenzied Flame is good, I just was not good enough to beat Radahn with only Frenzied Flame, and I'd take full responsibility for that. Maybe one day I'll try again. Thankfully, we managed to beat Mesmer with a sliver of health, and next up I'm going for Bale. Now on my way I run into the Ancient Dragon Man, and wow, this is actually a great Ash of War for NPC invaders. The few NPC invaders that we have to fight throughout this run get completely stun-locked by it, so it's kind of funny. I love it. But of course, on our way up the Jagged Peak, we have to defeat some Jagged Peak Drakes, and then run into Igon, talk to him, get his finger, and then summon him at the Bale boss fight. Now, Bale, while he is terrifying and awesome, and his lightning is so cool, and his attacks are terrifying and awesome and cool, I don't think he's the most difficult boss. I usually don't have too many problems with him, and Mesmer usually gives me more problems than Bale, so I was assuming that we would get a first or second try victory. Little did I know, I had forgotten how to dodge. Like, everything. I don't know what was going on, I just kept getting hit by his attacks, and there's no excuse for that. In fact, Bale himself was actually better at dodging my attacks than I was at dodging his. Because every time I tried to charge up my Ash of War, he would jump out of the way. or just toss me out of it. So I actually died a lot. Like, honestly, way too much. That being said, it was only a matter of time before Bale fell to our flower power, just like all those before him, and like all those who will come after him. A lucky stance break allowed us to get a really nice amount of damage off on him, and he's almost taken care of as long as we can just dodge his last few crazy attacks, or just tank through them, which seems more likely at this point. We should be okay. Now, Igon usually doesn't help out too much, and I only summoned him because I freaking love Igon, but this round he was actually doing a lot of damage, and he actually finished off Bale rather than me. So, good on him. I freaking love that guy. Igon is the best. And I'll honestly probably never not summon him, because hearing him scream "Curse you, Bale" at the beginning of every fight gives me so much energy and hype, and it's basically my will to live at this point. Next I have to ring some finger bells and finish up this big long quest line. I guess it's not that long, but regardless, we have to fight another NPC invader, and you know what that means. We're using the incantation. You guys probably thought I was going to use the Ash of War again, didn't you? Yeah, so the incantation was doing a surprisingly low amount of damage to this lady over here. And, yeah, I mean, I just thought it would be better, honestly. But, like, it still wasn't bad. It has a lot of range, and it hits a bunch, so the NPCs have a hard time dodging it, and it only took a few attacks before she was taken care of. Though that left us with a lack of FP and healing flasks, so yeah, we didn't survive too long. That being said, after about 7 more tries, we did manage to get her below half, and I know I'm not showing too much of this boss fight, and that's just because it's kind of boring, to be honest. It is to me, at least. Not that I don't like this boss or anything, I just wasn't having fun rewatching the footage. For whatever reason, I don't know. Plus, after we do end up, spoilers, beating Radahn, I do go back and finish up the main game, and I'm going to include that in the video as well, just because it's fun, and I want to. So this video is going to be long enough as it is, and I'm going to have to cut down some of the boss fights a bit to keep this under or around an hour. With that, we're actually almost done. Now I go to the Abyssal Woods next to fight the last Remembrance boss that's not Radahn, and on my way I grab the map fragment, and I stop by the abandoned church over here in order to grab a Scadutree fragment, and also, if you didn't know, this is where you get the Frenzied Flame perfume bottle. Again, if you're watching this video, the chances that you already have those items is very, very high, but just in case somebody doesn't know, doesn't hurt. On my way, I died like 4 times to these losers, and yeah, but I did eventually make my way to Midra's Manse, and I made my way through it pretty quickly. Now this is where I started to notice a big problem with the sunflower, and that is how much it obstructed my view. And this becomes even more pertinent later on in the run, fighting different bosses. Now I accidentally did a jump attack against this guy right here, so I guess the challenge just failed. Regardless, we take him down, and we start the real boss fight. Now the Lord of Frenzied Flame is actually kind of difficult, but also really cool. His flowy moves are great, and the Frenzied Flame Fire I just think looks so cool. Plus, he doesn't resist holy damage, so that's also great. We do a solid amount of damage to him. Quite a respectable amount, actually. And while I didn't get him on my first try, I also didn't get him on my second try. Yeah, that's fine though. We're able to get him below half pretty easily and pretty consistently. And god, that attack is brutal. It's not hard to dodge or anything, but good lord, if you get hit by it, that looks rough. To be able to survive that, god, our Tarnished really is something special. Like, imagine having a sword shoved down your... I'm not going to say that. So throughout this fight, I learned that he does attack a little bit too quickly for me to always safely get off an Ash of War. There's very few open windows for us to hit him with. So most of the time we just have to risk getting hit and be willing to tank a hit or two from him if we want to get damage off, which is fine. And good lord, thank god I didn't get absolutely deleted there, otherwise that would have been another dozen attempts or so before I got a good run. Now I am completely out of healing, which sucks, but he's also very low, so if we can get 2 more hits off, we should be okay. Again, I really have a problem with dodging attacks. I really need to focus on that more. I'm running out of healing way too often. It's embarrassing. But we do manage to get one last hit off, finish off the Lord of Frenzied Flame, and with that, all we need to do is defeat 2 more big bosses in the DLC, and we'll be done. Let's get right to it. Needle Knight Lita and her little posse of outlaws, yeah, watch this. I mean, I almost got deleted by her incantation, but other than that, we're able to stun lock and delete them in turn with our Ash of War. It's great. It's really good for invaders. But for those of you who play PvP, is the Sunflower any good? Just wondering, I don't play Elden Ring PvP myself. And now it's time for the boss that I've been dreading this entire run, Radahn. And you guys know how it went last time. 6.5 hours it took me to beat him. And that was with using the Mimic tier in the last couple of hours, well, the last hour, because I just couldn't do it. Again, that was a skill issue on my part, and I'm not making that mistake again. I'm committing to this no matter how long it takes to beat him without any outside help. So, since I had so much practice from the other day, Phase 1 was honestly a piece of cake. And of course I still died a lot of times during Phase 1, but I was consistently making it to Phase 2, and that's pretty good. For me at least, Phase 2 is more RNG based than skill based, and that entirely revolves around which moves Radahn chooses to use, and if he decides to let me win, rather than me winning on my own accord. Now, I'd like to think that I'm decent at Phase 2 by now, and I can dodge a lot of his attacks very successfully, but he just uses so many in quick succession, and, you know, the whole freaking staggering you with his after effects from his attacks, god, that's so annoying. But my first attempt, I actually forgot to put on Lord's Divine Fortification as an incantation, and that's the one that negates a significant amount of holy damage that you receive. So I basically viewed this first attempt as a loss. Still, we made it into Phase 2 at least on our first try, which is pretty good. That's, I think, better than any run in the past. So, yeah, that's something. Now, I've already mentioned twice in this voiceover that I did manage to beat Radahn without the help of the Mimic tier, so I'm not spoiling anything by just skipping ahead to the winning run. Now, since even the first attempt, I felt really good about this fight. I knew that I could definitely do this with just the Ash of War. His openings were just about big enough for me to get one hit off from our Ash of War and be safe, or at least get one hit from our Ash of War off and only take a little bit of damage. So to me, it always felt like it was only a matter of time before I would get a winning run. And also, if you guys didn't know this, Radahn is actually weak to holy damage in his first phase, which is why it only takes us 4 hits from our Ash of War to take him into a second phase. Now at the start of every phase 2, I just run directly to the side, activate Lord's Divine Fortification to take significantly less holy damage, and just try to survive for a bit so I can heal up and get into the groove of things. I feel like at this point I know Radahn's moveset more than any other boss in the game, but that doesn't mean I'm good at it. I still get hit, especially by attacks like that, and I still go through a lot of healing flasks. But I did manage to learn his best openings to get off a safe attack, so again, as long as he chooses to let me live and doesn't immediately delete me, I should be able to win this. Now usually that attack kills me, but I got lucky and I managed to dodge backwards and that somehow saved me. This one is usually pretty easy to dodge, though it doesn't really have a good opening for us to use our Ash of War against him. This one, however, we can always get a safe attack off. Every time he does that cross-blade swipe, we can get an Ash of War off safely. Now the biggest problem for me, the most trouble that I have in this fight, is actually those little beams of light that come after each attack, because it staggers me out of dodging sometimes and allows him to absolutely combo me and destroy me. Oh, his grab attack, by the way, is the perfect opportunity to use an Ash of War as well. Most times I can get it off safely. And I am proud of this fight because it makes the Radahn Phase 2 look kind of easy. But again, this was over 2 hours of attempts, and I really just got lucky here based on which attacks he chose to use, being the ones that I could safely dodge. For the most part, at least. Plus, he was nice enough to let me heal a bunch of times, which is quite nice of him. I just said that. Anyway, once we get him low enough in Phase 2, well, right here, he jumps into the air for a giant meteor attack, and the past couple times I fought him, I forgot that it wipes you. So, you just gotta run away before you rebuff or heal. Just like the regular Radahn fight in the base game, just don't stand there and heal, just run first. Thankfully, after his meteor, he gives us a lot of really good openings, and gives us a lot of time to heal up and make sure that we're safe. And only about 4 more attacks and he should be done for. Now, I also had a tough time learning how to dodge some of his attacks because, well, the way I like to fight him is really up close and personal, but only to learn that some of his attacks make you dodge backwards if you want to stay the safest. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, I just don't know what that way is. So he uses his big AoE attack, and that gives us a perfect chance to heal up, refill our FP, and get 2 final attacks off to finish this fight. And with that, we've completed the challenge. If you guys want to stick around and watch me beat Malenia with this weapon, you should do it. It's pretty fun. Now, before we take on Malenia, though, I do have a couple of chores to attend to. The first one being Gideon, the second one being Godfrey, and the third and fourth being Radahn and the Elden Beast. And I do want to mention, I'm only doing this because I was having so much fun with the weapon, and I wanted to beat more bosses with it. So, I'm actually just using it as a regular weapon now. I'm not just using the Ash of War, and this is more for fun rather than for a challenge. So there are no more rules, and that isn't great for my enemies. Because unlike the DLC final bosses, the main game final bosses are a little bit easier. And even though Radahn and the Elden Beast heavily resist holy damage, that's not enough to stop us from dealing a really, really nice amount of damage, especially poise damage, which allows us to get off some hefty poise breaks. And I'm just curious, there's a little bit of discourse in my previous video's comment section about this. What do you guys call them? Do you call them poise breaks? Do you call them critical hits? Do you call them riposts? I call them riposts, personally. But I know there's a couple different names that they can go by. And in Bloodborne specifically, they're known as viscerals, but that's not quite the same here. Which is a shame because visceral attack sounds way more badass than riposte. Regardless, yeah, Radahn was really easy. This is our first attempt too, by the way. I'll be completely honest, I was a little bit worried about the Elden Beast because its whole shtick is holy damage, you know? I thought we weren't going to do anything to it. And, I mean, that's not great damage, but it's certainly better than I thought it would be. And again, these jump attacks do a really, really good amount of poise damage, which will allow us to get a riposte in just a few hits. Now, surprisingly enough, I get another poise break later on in the fight, and I use the Ash of War rather than a riposte, and it actually does way more damage. It's weird because the Ash of War is mainly holy damage, so that's why it's weird. I also love how they allow you to use Torrent in this fight now. It's so nice being able to just ride Torrent and escape some of his attacks that are super annoying, or chase him down as he is running away, because the Elden Beast always likes to run to the other side of the map, and it's ugh. He is afraid of the flower of our power, the power of our flower. Shh. Just don't worry about it. Anywho, he's down to about half health, and I get smacked by his big sword. That's not what I meant. And we're able to get off a bunch of jump attacks, and a couple more should allow us to get the poise break and hit him with a sweet riposte. Just kidding, because now we're using the Ash of War. See? Look at that, the damage is actually pretty great, especially when you get off the full combo. Now, after the Elden Beast, I don't feel like trying to take out Rykard or... Oh, who else is there? Estelle, a City Sax, Fortisax, Fortisax, the Regal Ancestor Spirit. God, there are so many remembrance bosses. Yeah, I'm not doing all that. No, I'm just fighting Malenia after this. I'm sure you guys wouldn't want to watch that anyway, considering how strong this weapon is. So it would just be me blowing through them. Malenia is the only boss left that'll give us a real challenge, perhaps except for Placidy Sax, just because I think he resists holy damage. Right? Or am I making that up? I'm probably making that up, I don't know. Regardless, I wanted to finish off the Elden Beast with Land of Shadow, just for funsies, just because I knew it wouldn't do like any damage to him, and I was right. But it only took a few, and with that, we've officially beat the game. And there's one more challenge we have to overcome. And to be honest, I was kind of looking forward to it. I haven't fought Malenia in months, and I actually really enjoy her boss fight. Before the DLC came out, Malenia was considered to be the most difficult boss in the game. Now afterwards, I don't know if that quite holds up anymore. I would take Malenia Phase 1 and 2 over Radahn Phase 2 any day of the week. Now before we could even get to her, we need to grab the Erdtree medallion pieces and fight frickin' these losers who trapped me in a corner and beat me up. And then, what's his name? Alright, Commander Niall? Or is it O'Neill? I always forget, they're the same thing. Commander Niall, yeah. And Commander Niall, at least, was an absolute pushover with this build. And we absolutely destroyed him and his spooky ghost foot soldiers. And then we'd have to make the long trek through the Erdtree in order to get to Malenia and fight her. So this is actually a bit of a chore, just getting to her in the first place. But that's okay, it'll all be worth it because I haven't fought her in a while and I'm excited. I think it'll be fun. Okay, I'm getting hungry. I'm gonna go make some homemade pasta. I'll be back for the voiceover in like 30 minutes. Okay, I'm back and refreshed, and I have food in my belly and water in my belly, and I've made it to Mikla's Erdtree. Long story short, Lorada falls very quickly and easily, and then I make my way over here to Malenia. Now, was this a difficult boss fight? Yes and no. See, It definitely took me a while. I'd say probably about an hour of attempts. But at no point did I ever feel overwhelmed. I only died because I was being greedy. Like right there. Now, luckily I managed to survive that time, but stuff like that is what got me killed over the past hour. So the entire time was basically me just thinking to myself, okay, I just need to be more patient, and then I can win. Compare that to Radahn Phase 2, and I feel like I'm just running away the entire time and looking for one tiny opening that happens once every couple of minutes. I suppose I felt like I was in control when I was fighting Malenia, but I did not feel that against Radahn, in Phase 2 at least. Needless to say, I really like this boss fight. I know a lot of people always complain about how difficult it is, and yeah, it is a pretty difficult boss fight, and it's annoying that she heals every time she hits you, but in general, if you learn the right way to dodge her attacks, that being Waterfowl Dance and then her Phase 2 opening attack mainly, it's genuinely a really fair and fun boss fight. So, genuine props to Malenia being one of my favorite boss fights in this game. Now, similar to Radahn, Phase 1 is quite easy, and I was getting past Phase 1 nearly every time without any problem, unless she used Waterfowl Dance at the wrong moment. And Phase 2 was where most of the issues occurred. She just gets a bit more aggressive, and her moves a little bit harder, and it's just a little bit harder to survive. But again, not really a huge issue, and I still felt some semblance of control during the fight. Now, it feels like the Ash of War from the Sunflower was made for Malenia. Hi, Daisy. And it stuns her so easily, and it hits her from the perfect distance away. It's great. Of course, I'm not just using the Ash of War during this fight, but when I did get the Ash of War off and I got some good hits on her, it did a lot of damage, and it stun locked her so that she couldn't hit me as easily. Kind of like that. It's great. I do hate doing this, but if you guys subscribe, that would be super helpful to me. Once I get to 1,000, that means I can officially make money, and then all of this time and effort that I'm putting into these videos and money, I bought a lot of equipment for this, won't go to waste. Even if it's just for like a week and then you unsubscribe, just so I can get over that threshold, that would be incredible. Like, yeah. But, you know, if you guys enjoyed the video, that's all that really matters to me. Your viewership is always enough for me, and I truly mean that. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching these videos, and I really, really do hope you enjoy them. And let me know if you have any future content ideas for Elden Ring or any other game. I've been Jack, and thanks for watching.